Ah, welcome back. You beautiful detectors of deception. You walking lie detectors wrapped in silence. You patient predators who've been watching, cataloging, documenting every single move they made while they thought you were blind. Welcome back to the moment that changed everything. The moment when two simple words became a nuclear weapon. The instant when "I know" left your lips and their entire world collapsed. Did you see it? Did you see their face drain of color, like someone just unplugged their soul from the simulation? Did you watch their eyes flicker with that ancient fear, that primal terror of being caught, exposed, seen for exactly what they are? Because that's what happened, wasn't it? You didn't raise your voice. You didn't scream or throw things or demand explanations. You just looked at them with those eyes that have seen too much, survived too much, understood too much, and you whispered those two words that carried the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. And just like that, their confidence shattered like glass hitting concrete at terminal velocity. Let's talk about that moment. That beautiful, terrible, irreversible moment when they realized you weren't the fool they thought you were. They had you categorized, didn't they? They had you filed away under naive and trusting and won't figure it out. They built their entire strategy around the assumption that you would stay blind, stay ignorant, stay conveniently unaware while they played their games in the shadows. They smiled to your face while plotting behind your back. They spoke in codes. They thought you couldn't crack. They left breadcrumbs they assumed you'd never follow. They underestimated the one thing they should have feared most, which is your silence, your patience, your ability to see patterns where others see coincidences. You weren't confused. You were collecting data. You weren't oblivious. You were building a case. You weren't trusting. You were testing. And every single test, they failed spectacularly while congratulating themselves on how well they were fooling you. Here's what they never understood about people like you, the ones who survive betrayal and come back sharper. You don't react immediately because you're processing, calculating, verifying before you strike, because you know that truth is a weapon that only works once, and when you use it, it has to be lethal. So you watched them lie about where they were, and you said nothing. You noticed the inconsistencies in their stories, and you smiled. You saw the messages they thought they deleted, and you kept your face neutral. You heard them mention details they shouldn't know, and you filed it away. Every lie became another piece of evidence. Every manipulation, another entry in the mental ledger you were keeping. And they had no idea that behind your calm exterior, you were building a case so airtight that when you finally decided to speak, there would be no escape, no excuses, no way to spin their way out of the truth, because you weren't going to give them a chance to explain. You were going to give them a mirror. And then came that moment, that fraction of a second that will haunt them for the rest of their pathetic lives. They were mid-sentence, probably spinning another elaborate fiction, probably adding another layer to their pyramid of lies, probably feeling quite pleased with themselves for maintaining the deception, and that's when you did it. You didn't interrupt dramatically. You didn't slam your fist on the table. You just waited for that perfect pause, that tiny gap in their performance, and you looked at them with eyes that had stopped pretending weeks ago, and you said it with a calm that was more terrifying than any scream could ever be. You said, "I know," and watched the light die in their eyes. It wasn't immediate. No. It was like watching a system crash in slow motion. First, the confusion, as their brain tried to process what you just said. Then the calculation, as they tried to figure out what exactly you knew. Then the fear, as they realized you knew everything. And finally the collapse, as they understood that every word they were about to say would be meaningless because the trial was over and they had already been found guilty. Did you see their mouth open and close like a fish drowning in air? Did you watch them scramble mentally, trying to find a response that would work, a deflection that would land, a counterattack that would shift the focus? But nothing came, because how do you respond to someone who just told you they've been 3 steps ahead of you this entire time? How do you lie to someone who's already seen the truth? How do you manipulate someone who's been studying your manipulation techniques like a doctoral thesis? You can't, and they knew it. And that's why their soul left their body right there in front of you. The person you were talking to disappeared, and what remained was just a hollow shell, trying desperately to remember how to breathe, how to think, how to exist in a world where they were no longer the clever one, no longer the one in control, no longer the puppet master, but the puppet who just realized their strings were being held by someone else all along. And that someone was you, sitting there with infinite patience and that slight smile that said, "I've been waiting for this moment." You know what the most beautiful part was? The silence that followed. That thick, suffocating silence where they realized that anything they said would only dig their grave deeper. They wanted to ask, "What do you know?" But they were terrified of the answer. They wanted to deny everything, but they didn't know what everything was. They wanted to turn it around on you, but they had no ammunition left because you hadn't given them anything to use against you. You had been so careful, so strategic, so impossibly controlled, while they were sloppy, confident, careless in their deception because they genuinely believed you were too simple to see through their performance. And now here they were, standing in the wreckage of their own arrogance, watching you watch them with the kind of calm that comes from knowing you hold every single card, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing they can do to change the outcome. Because it was decided the moment you decided to stop pretending you didn't know. Let's dig deeper into what you actually knew, shall we? Because I know wasn't just about one lie, was it? It was about the pattern, the whole intricate web they had been weaving, thinking you couldn't see the threads. You knew about the conversations they had behind your back, the ones where they dissected your weaknesses and laughed at your trust. You knew about the plans they made, the alliances they formed, the contingencies they prepared for the day you might finally catch on. You knew about the other people involved, the accomplices, the witnesses, the ones who knew what was happening and said nothing because they were too cowardly or too complicit to warn you. You knew about the timeline. You could map out exactly when the betrayal started, when it escalated, when they got comfortable enough to stop covering their tracks as carefully. You knew about their motivations, the insecurities and jealousies and petty resentments that drove them to stab you in the back while shaking your hand. And you knew something they didn't, which is that knowledge isn't just power. It's patience weaponized. And you had been patient for so long that when you finally struck, it wasn't an attack, it was an execution. Here's what happens in their mind during those first seconds after you drop that bomb on them. Their brain goes into emergency protocol, scanning through every interaction you've had recently, trying to pinpoint exactly when you figured it out, how much you actually know versus how much you're bluffing, whether there's any possible way to salvage the situation or if they need to immediately shift into damage control mode. They're running calculations faster than any computer, weighing their options, which are all terrible, considering their responses, which are all inadequate, trying to find some angle, some leverage, some way to twist this back in their favor, but there isn't one because you didn't give them one. You waited until you had everything, until every possible escape route was sealed, until there was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. And only then did you reveal that you knew. And by reveal, I mean you simply acknowledged what you'd known for weeks or months while they thought they were getting away with it. And that's what makes it so devastating. Not that you found out, but that you knew and let them keep going. Let them bury themselves deeper. Let them add more lies to the pile until the weight of their own deception crushed them. And now we arrive at the moment of truth, the split second where they have to decide how to respond. And let's examine their options, shall we? Option 1 is to deny everything, to look at you with fake confusion and say, "Know what?" as if playing dumb will somehow reset the conversation and give them time to think. But that doesn't work because your face tells them you're done with the games. You're not here to be gaslit. You're not here to be manipulated. You're here to watch them squirm in the truth they created. Option 2 is to admit to something small, to give you a partial truth in hopes that you'll think that's all there is. The classic limited hangout where they confess to a minor transgression, hoping it will satisfy your need for honesty while the bigger lies remain hidden. But they can see in your eyes that you're not buying sample-sized truths. You want the whole shipment. You want everything. And anything less than complete honesty is just another insult to your intelligence, which they've already insulted enough. Option 3 is to attack, to flip the script and make you the bad guy for spying, or not trusting, or being paranoid, to turn your justified knowledge into your character flaw. But that's a desperate move, and they know it won't work because you're too calm, too centered, too clearly in control of this situation to fall for such obvious manipulation. So they stand there, or sit there, or lean there against whatever surface is keeping them upright. And they cycle through these options in microseconds, while their soul continues its exodus from their body. You can see it happening, can't you? The way their posture changes from confident to defensive, the way their voice that was so smooth moments ago now cracks and stutters, the way their hands start moving nervously because their body needs to do something while their mind is busy imploding. They might laugh, that awful, hollow laugh people make when they're trying to act like something serious is actually ridiculous. They might shake their head like you're being absurd. They might even try to touch you, reach out with a hand that you look at with such cold distance that it freezes midair and retreats. And through all of this, through every failed strategy and abandoned tactic, you just sit there with those 2 words hanging in the air like a guillotine blade. And your silence says everything their panic cannot, which is that the trial is over, the verdict is in, and the sentence is whatever you decide it to be because you're the one holding all the power now. Let's talk about what those 2 words actually represent. Because I know isn't just a statement of fact. It's a declaration of war won without a battle fought. It's you telling them that every manipulation they attempted failed. Every lie they told was transparent. Every move they made was predictable. It's you revealing that while they thought they were the player, you were the one writing the game, and the entire time they were performing for an audience that saw through every single scene. It's the sound of their superiority complex shattering. The moment when the person who thought they were so clever, so smooth, so good at deception realizes they were being allowed to dig their own grave, and the person holding the shovel was you all along. I know is the most economical way to destroy someone who's built their entire strategy on your ignorance, because it proves that the foundation they were standing on never existed. They were building castles in the air, and you just revealed that you could see they were levitating on lies this whole time. and now you're done pretending gravity doesn't exist. Here's what makes this moment so absolutely perfect, so cinematically beautiful that if life were a movie, this would be the scene that wins awards. It's not about revenge. Not really. Because revenge implies you're on their level, playing their game, letting them affect you enough to make you react emotionally. No. This is something purer than revenge. This is justice served cold by someone who refused to sink to their level, who chose instead to rise so far above their petty deceptions that you could see the whole landscape of their lies from a perspective they couldn't imagine. You didn't stoop. You didn't scheme. You didn't plot elaborate countermoves. You simply observed, remembered, verified, and then when the moment was perfect, you spoke 2 words that contained entire paragraphs of evidence they don't even know you have. And the beauty of it is that they'll never know the full extent of what you discovered. They'll spend the rest of their lives wondering how much you actually knew, what you chose not to say, what you decided wasn't even worth mentioning because it was so pathetic compared to everything else. And now we need to address what happens after. Because I know isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of their hell. They're going to replay this moment 10,000 times in their head, analyzing every word they said, every move they made, trying to figure out where they messed up when you started suspecting how they could have been more careful. They're going to lose sleep wondering if you told anyone else, if there are others who know what they did, if their reputation is being dismantled behind closed doors while they smile and pretend everything is fine. They're going to see you differently now. Not as the person they fooled, but as the person who fooled them into thinking they were fooling you, which is a level of psychological warfare they didn't know existed. Every time they see you after this, even if you never speak about it again, they'll remember this moment. They'll remember the way their stomach dropped when you said those words. They'll remember the feeling of their soul evacuating their body in real time. And they'll know that you know. And they'll know that you'll always know. And that knowledge will eat at them like acid in their consciousness forever. You want to know the real reason those 2 words had such devastating impact? Because they revealed something terrifying about you. Something they had catastrophically failed to understand. They thought your kindness was weakness, your trust was stupidity, your patience was ignorance. But in that moment, when you looked at them with those eyes that have seen through every mask they've ever worn, they realized the truth, which is that you're dangerous, not in the loud, aggressive way that's easy to defend against, but in the quiet, observant way that dismantles people without ever raising a voice. You're the kind of dangerous that doesn't announce itself, doesn't make threats, doesn't need to prove anything because it knows what it knows, and that's enough. You're dangerous because you can sit across from someone lying to your face and smile while cataloging every tell, every inconsistency, every mistake they make because they're so confident you won't notice. You're dangerous because you understand that knowledge is only powerful when the other person doesn't know you have it. And you had the discipline to sit on that knowledge until the perfect moment, which is a level of strategic thinking they will never possess. Let's examine the ripple effects of this moment. Because when you destroy someone's illusion of control with 2 simple words, the shockwave extends far beyond just that conversation. Suddenly, they're questioning everything. Every person they've manipulated, every lie they've told, every scheme they've pulled off, wondering if everyone else knows too, if they've been walking around like an emperor with no clothes while everyone silently judges them. Their confidence, which was always fragile and built on the assumption that they were smarter than everyone else, completely collapses because if you figured them out, who else has? If you were pretending not to know, who else is pretending? If you've been 3 steps ahead of them, how many others are even further ahead? Their entire worldview has to reorganize around this new information that they're not the clever manipulator they thought they were. They're the transparent amateur everyone's been watching and pitying. And that realization doesn't just hurt their pride, it fundamentally alters their sense of self. Because if you're not the person you thought you were, then who are you? And here's the part they'll never recover from. The wound that won't heal, no matter how much time passes or how much they try to rationalize it away. They know now that there was a period of time, days or weeks or months, when you knew the truth and didn't say anything. When you looked at them and knew they were lying and smiled anyway. When you let them continue their performance, knowing it was a performance. That gap between when you knew and when you told them you knew, that's the space where their ego goes to die, because it means that during all those interactions where they thought they were in control, you were the one in control. Every conversation you had after you figured it out, you were the director and they were the actor who didn't know they were being filmed. And now they have to go back through all those memories and see them from this new perspective, where they're not the manipulator, they're the entertainment. And you were watching them like someone watches a tragedy unfold, with that mix of fascination and pity that comes from knowing how it ends, while the characters on stage remain blissfully unaware. Now let's talk about the power dynamic shift that just occurred. Because before you said those 2 words, they thought they had leverage over you. They thought they were getting away with something, which gave them a sense of superiority, a secret thrill, a feeling of being clever and untouchable. But the moment you revealed that you knew, every bit of leverage they thought they had evaporated instantly. And not only that, they realized you had leverage over them this entire time and chose not to use it, which is a level of power they can't comprehend. You held their secret, their truth, their exposure in your hands and decided when to reveal it, if to reveal it, how to reveal it. And that makes you the authority in this dynamic, the one who controls the narrative, the one who decides what happens next. They're now in a position where they have to wait for your move, react to your decisions, hope that you'll be merciful. And that complete reversal of power happened in the span of 2 words, which is the most efficient coup in the history of interpersonal warfare. And here's what makes you truly terrifying to them now. What will keep them up at night long after this moment fades into painful memory. They're realizing that if you could hide your knowledge this well, if you could perform ignorance so convincingly, if you could maintain such perfect composure while knowing what you knew, then what else are you capable of? What other secrets might you be keeping? What other observations have you made that you haven't shared? What other games are you playing that they can't see? Suddenly you're not the simple, straightforward person they thought they had figured out. You're an unknown variable, a mystery, a potential threat that they can no longer calculate or predict. And that uncertainty, that inability to know what you're thinking or what you might do next, is more destabilizing than any threat you could make. Because threats tell people where the danger is. But this just tells them that danger exists somewhere in your capabilities, and they have no idea where or when it might manifest.